In this video, we're going to highlight the instance event. The instance event is used to take a group of events, records, or groups themselves and iterate them multiple times over the timeline as you see fit. Let's look a little bit closer. To show how the instance event works, we're going to use a contract event. Here is a contract, and in this contract you can see that there is an initial down payment, a milestone, and then a follow-up payment. Let's take a closer look. Here you can see the total contract, the initial down payment, the first milestone 2 months out, and the final payment at 6 months. In a spreadsheet, if you wanted to take this contract but then have it repeated multiple times along the timeline, it'd be very complicated to do. Here we're going to use an instance event. In the instance event, we pick the event that we want to instance, namely the contract. We set a cadence and a start date and an end date. And here we said that we want to see this trigger once every month between that frame range. To see that in action, we're going to remove the bypass here. And now that contract is being repeated month over month over month. The reason you are seeing a lumpy set of payments here is because those different milestones all stack up. Now we do have an option in here to remove the initial payment here, which we're still seeing in the calculation. You can check the bypass target record to make sure that your source event isn't being repeated. Now that source event is gone and we're only seeing the pattern from the actual transaction. Let's look at a second version of that one. Here we have another contract event. We're going to unbypass this, and we're going to remove the first instance from the calculation and the first contract. This contract is a bit more complicated. There's a larger initial payment, 2 milestones, and then a larger final payment here. Here we're going to use the overwrite editor. Opening up this instance, again we are pointing to that same record. We're going to bypass the original value here. Here we have this instance amount set to 1, but we can use overrides. Overrides allow us to go in and manually enter unique numbers here on months so that we're not just working with a single number 1 spread across the entire timeline. The result there is when we run this calculation and we turn the bypass off, we now have a much different profile. The instance event is great because it allows you to much more accurately reflect cash flow and calculations in real time as opposed to using block budgets to estimate when funds will come in and when expenses are due. The instance event also supports groups. At the time of this video, this function is still being added in, but within the group event, a user can add in multiple contracts, for example, and this entire group, this bucket, can be instanced all together. And in the group event here, or in the instance event here, you'll be able to select a group instead and instance all of those combined. That is the instance event.